Right. Welcome to the 2021 NEAFCS annual session. I had so hoped that we would be meeting in person in Grand Rapids, Michigan. At the beginning of September, your board made a difficult decision to transition to a virtual annual session. A special thanks to the Planning Committee, our Michigan affiliate, and our national office staff for working tirelessly to move us to virtual. We have tried to incorporate all of the moving parts of a face-to-face annual session in a virtual format and also include a Michigan flair. Make sure to read your daily emails and check the NEAFCS website for information on our virtual conference. The playbook will be most helpful in navigating annual session. I am so very proud of this year's NEAFCS board. At the beginning of our board year, I asked each board member to identify a word that would guide them throughout the year. Each month, a board member shared their word. Prior to closing session, we will have a PowerPoint with each board member's word. My word was unity. My goal was for the board to work together as one. A quote I follow from Maddie Stepanek: unity is strength. When there is teamwork and collaboration, great things can be achieved. As we look back over the past year, despite never having met in person, the board has achieved great things. I attribute the accomplishment to teamwork and collaboration. Each member of the board brought great value. Board members were willing to volunteer and step up when needed. The board learned together, worked together, and even played a little bit. The projects and programs that were accomplished this past year are also a testament to our committees. Just a few that come to mind: the NEAFCS leadership experience, our connecting with colleagues, and our new corporate sponsor package. We also have our ongoing projects and programs like the silent auction, the NEAFCS awards ceremony, and our impact statements. I know I haven't mentioned each committee or project. Please know that your work and commitment to NEAFCS are greatly appreciated. NEAFCS is a bit different from other associations in that we are volunteer driven. Yes, we have an amazing management company. They work in symphony with our board members and committees to make things happen. During my 6 years on the board, I have seen the passion and dedication that our members bring to NEAFCS. I have said more than once that serving you, our members, as Vice President for Awards, Southern Region Director, President-elect, and President has been one of the greatest experiences of my extension career. As I look out on our virtual gathering, I see so many whom I call friend. Leader, committed, flexible, caring, adaptable, motivator. Just a few words that can be used to describe our members. NEAFCS is the organization that it is because of the members. We have a compassionate side that spills over into the way that we treat each other and the communities that we work in. I know that we all come to annual session for the professional development. Networking opportunities are a huge part of annual session. We catch up with old friends and make new ones. If we were in Grand Rapids, there would be lots of hugs being offered. COVID has given us the opportunity to think outside the box and work differently. Virtual programming, which we may have been a little afraid of, is now a part of our standard operating procedure. We can now partner with colleagues across our states and nation to offer dynamic programming. Many of our concurrent sessions have an online technology component. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are themes that run through our programming and daily lives. We will hear from Leonardo Pisano during this opening session, speaking on DIE. I look forward to the next 3 days full of learning, sharing, and virtual fellowship. I am so glad that you are able to join us. I hope that you enjoy. Let us take a moment to pause and honor our members who have passed in this past year. They were someone who loved and was loved. They were someone's family member, and they were our friends. In our own way and in silence, let us take a moment to honor them. Will everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance presented by Isabella County, Michigan Evergreen 4-H Club, led by NEAFCS member Kara Lynch, followed by the national anthem sung by Bay County, Michigan, Danielle Harding, friend of NEAFCS member Lisa Triber.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. It is a true pleasure for me to welcome you to the opening of NEAFCS 2021 virtual annual session, Great Depths, Greater Impacts. Welcoming you from Grand Rapids, Michigan, where the temperature here is 41 degrees with a low of 32. So even though we were looking forward to meeting in person, there may be an advantage to meeting virtually after all. Hope you get to experience everything this conference has to offer, from educational breakout sessions to networking, exhibit hall, wellness activities, award ceremonies, and so much more. I'm now going to pass this over to Courtney Aldridge.
Hello, everyone. My name is Courtney Aldridge. I'm one of the conference co-liaisons from Michigan. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I would like to invite you to experience Michigan by going to the landing page of the NEAFCS website and visiting Michigan virtually. We have several videos there that we have uploaded for you so that you can learn what is special about Michigan and about Michigan State University Extension. We also invite you to visit the virtual calming room. This is a web page that was put together by MSU Extension, and it will give you an opportunity to refresh and restore and relax during those times when you need it during the conference. There are creative activities there, movement activities, all kinds of opportunities for you. And finally, we invite you to check out our service project for this year's conference, Safe Haven Ministries. This is a shelter for victims of domestic violence and is located in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And we would like you to explore their website and their wish list and consider supporting our service project. And then with that, I want you to have a wonderful conference this year. I'm now going to shift gears and introduce to you our Director of Michigan State University Extension, Dr. Quentin Tyler. Dr. Quinton Tyler began his career as an agriculture agent intern in his home state of Kentucky. He went on to serve the University of Kentucky in 4-H youth development, family and consumer sciences, and as the Assistant Dean and Director for Diversity and the State Coordinator for Youth Economics in the College of Agriculture, Food, and Environment. He joined Michigan State University in 2018 as the Associate Dean and Director for the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources. In May of 2021, he was appointed the Director of MSU Extension. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Quentin Tyler.
So thank you. On behalf of MSU Extension, I would like to extend a huge welcome. While I know there's nothing like being in person, I think you're going to love your virtual experience in Michigan. There's a lot to learn and love about this great state. First, we are quickly marching toward a population of 10 million people. Nearly 2 million live in rural areas and 8 million live in suburban and urban areas. We at Michigan State University Extension aim to have a positive impact on the people of Michigan through our 4 institutes: health and nutrition, children and family, agriculture and agribusiness, and communities, food and environment. 3 of those 4 institutes are among the registrants at this conference. And in particular, the area of family and consumer sciences touched many of those in Extension in various ways. I'm happy to see such a robust agenda that recognizes the importance of this program area. In about 6 months into my role as Director of Michigan State University Extension, and even though I'm from Kentucky, it feels like home. Though this is a virtual conference, I want you to get to know my adopted state. Michigan has the longest freshwater coastline in the United States. Our 2 peninsulas feature 3,288 miles. As Michiganders like to say, no salt, no sharks, no problem. Michigan is home to 6 national parks and 3 national forests. 3 are hundreds of miles of public beaches, both inland and on the Great Lakes. We have great museums, beautiful hotels, and great camping. And I haven't even mentioned the importance of the 300 commodities we grow here. I know I'm doing some advertising, but this point is twofold. First, don't make this your only trip to Michigan. Come visit us and see what we have to offer. Second, we have a large variety of programming to fit a large variety of needs. I hope to see that we too are reaching for greater depths and greater impacts. I encourage you to talk to my colleagues, learn what we're doing to help Michiganders survive and thrive. I'm sure our folks will learn from each of you as well. And last but certainly not least, I also want to acknowledge the members of the Planning Committee from the Michigan affiliate. I know they have worked extremely hard to put together this conference, and I hope you enjoy it. Enjoy your time, and thank you, and go green.
Thank you. I'm Pat Brinkman. I'm Family and Consumer Science. I'm NEFCS Vice President for Professional Development, and I would like to welcome you to the 2021 NEFCS Annual Session. I'm glad that you have joined us. Yes, we are disappointed we're not meeting in person, but our virtual features this year are going to make this a great conference. Last year, Michigan State University Extension worked hard on an in-person conference, which we had to switch to virtual. They are still working from home up until June of this year as they worked on conference planning. We thank the Michigan State affiliate co-liaison, Courtney Aldridge, Georgina Perry, and Teresa Clark Jones, and all the committee chairs and members for working together to bring us pre-conference sessions, in-depth sessions, opening general session, and more. We owe them a big thank you for persevering for this difficult time. Since switching to virtual, our management administration worked hard to improve our experience from last year's using your evaluations. We hope you find our virtual platform easy to use. Be sure to participate in networking opportunities as they will be different from last year, and follow the tracks that you have for concurrent sessions. Notice Exhibit Hall will be available every day. You have opportunities to learn about programming in other states, glean new ideas, add tools, and gain skills to help you expand your horizons. Don't forget to bid on the virtual silent auction. You will have opportunities to view sessions for up to 6 months after they are posted later in November. This means a lot of opportunities to check out sessions that you wanted to attend but could not. Our theme for this year has been Great Depths, Greater Impacts. As we explore concurrent sessions, ignite sessions, showcase of excellence, in-depth sessions, networking, exhibitor forums, and pre-conference sessions, we hope you will increase your depth of virtual programming, increase the depth of your networks with colleagues, increase your depth of personal and professional commitment, and explore tips and methods for greater impacts in both virtual and in-person programming. NEFCS is your professional association. You help make this association stronger, greater, and better with your participation and involvement. I encourage you to become a member of one of the committees and to consider becoming involved through a higher leadership position. You can help make NEFCS greater. We know you will take advantage of your time gaining great depth and plans for greater impacts. Enjoy our conference.
Hi, I'm Georgina Perry, and I'm one of the co-liaisons. I have the privilege of introducing our 2021 keynote speaker. Leonardo Pizzagna is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Specialist for Michigan State University Extension. He has over 30 years of experience developing, teaching, and facilitating educational programs through Michigan State University Extension, Adrian College, and Siena Heights University. Leonardo's work as an educator is grounded in his conviction that deep and lasting institutional change requires an equally strong commitment to working on oneself while nurturing authentic relationships across differences. He believes that authenticity is far more than mere friendship or working affiliation. It is based on trust, honesty, risk-taking, mutual responsibility, humility, and acceptance that tension in relationships is a necessary component that leads to growth. Since 2018, Leonardo has provided leadership in the development and co-facilitation of the National Extension Coming Together for Racial Understanding initiative, Train the Trainer process, which has helped to support the ongoing development of extension staff and partners to facilitate dialogues on race and racism. These dialogues have engaged both extension colleagues and leaders in over 28 states and also helped to build the capacity of extension professionals supporting as well as co-facilitating these dialogues in their local community settings. He is also a co-facilitator for the National Opening Doors Project, a seminar for personal and professional growth and challenge. As a lifelong learner around issues related to social justice and change, Leonardo has participated in foundational learning opportunities such as Cultural Bridges, Visions Training, Opening Doors, and the People's Institute. His ongoing commitment to issues of social justice continues a legacy of community and social justice leadership inspired by his parents and grandparents. In the best virtual way you know how, please help me in welcoming Leonardo Pizzagna.
Thank you so much, Georgina, for that wonderful welcome and introduction. And thank all of you for being here with us this afternoon for the kickoff of your National Extension Family and Consumer Science Conference. I really appreciate getting the invitation to share some of my thoughts about the work that we all need to do in order to live into our desires and our commitments related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I want to start out my comments by providing the land acknowledgement. And the land acknowledgement will be in relationship to MSU and our land that I find myself in here in my office. Notice where you are in space. Feel your body on your chair, your feet on the floor. Let your senses notice your office, your room, your home, your building, or your neighborhood. Feel the connection that we always have to the land through our bodies. And feel this connection. See in your mind's eye the land around you, the trees, the plants, the fields or forest, the water, the color of the sky. In order to be with a good mind, let us give thanks to the land. We collectively acknowledge that Michigan State University occupies the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe, the Three Fires Confederacy of the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi people. In particular, the university resides on land ceded in the 1819 Treaty of Saginaw. We recognize, support, and advocate for the sovereignty of Michigan's 12 federally recognized tribal nations, for historic Indigenous communities in Michigan, for Indigenous individuals and communities who live here now, and for those who were forcibly removed from their homelands. By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous sovereignty, and we pledge the work to hold Michigan State University more accountable to the needs of American Indian and Indigenous peoples. We respect the desire to recognize the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary stewards of the land. However, offering the land acknowledgement is not enough. We must remember that these acknowledgements must be preceded by relationships with living Indigenous people, communities, and nations. We must recognize that the Indigenous nations that are a part of our state constitute sovereign, distinct, and unique nations, and that the 12 sovereign tribal nations, that within the 12 sovereign nations, we have 3 tribal colleges: Bay Mills Community College, Keweenaw Community College, and Saginaw Chippewa Community College, who along with Michigan State make up the land grant system in the state of Michigan. This declaration must also be followed with ongoing commitments to these same communities. Land acknowledgements are a responsibility, and we can further support the land acknowledgements by everyday actions, such as visiting tribal cultural centers if they exist in our communities to learn more about their nation's history. Check to see what is included or not in the history that is being taught in your school districts. Read books like Custer Died for Your Sins, or the many other books that were authored by Vine Deloria Jr., who is one of the premier Native American scholars, historians, whose work focused on land and treaty issues in America. Or maybe you'll take time to listen to podcasts like Finding Chloe, that focuses on the travesties and the generational trauma that still exist in tribal families and communities as a result of Native boarding schools. As I prepared my thoughts for today, I wanted to acknowledge that I want to focus on how are we? How can we be in these spaces that we're called to hopefully add to and value diversity, equity, and inclusion? I suspect that you'll find things that you can do, but I also want to put prominence on how we are, who we are in these spaces that might lead to our own liberation and the liberation of those that we work with and work for. So I'll share my screen. And it felt important for me to recognize the contributions and the leadership that centers me, and that is the contributions to my life from my parents and my immediate family members. So let me recognize Eulalia and Pauline Pizzania, my parents, who you'll see in the picture there to the left. They're originally from Laredo, Texas. They were migrant laborers and workers who in 1948 settled out in Tecumseh, Michigan, a rural white community that I still call home. They transitioned out of migrant labor into being a loving housekeeper, a landscaper, and a factory laborer. The picture below is my immediate family, and I have a large extended family. And it's through the wisdom and the love and the connection to my parents and my immediate family that I'm centered in the learning and the work of love of self, family, culture, and community. I was taught the power of relationship building, of dialogue and action. I saw through examples the ways that I could turn to compassion, wonderment, curiosity, and love, even when it was hard. And I also learned to remember, grieve, and to honor. The picture that you see there of my parents was taken on their 25th wedding anniversary. And 2 years later, my mother and 4 other family members were tragically killed in a car accident. I'm still working on recovering from that loss, but it was through understanding grief and understanding that how I could move through grief to also honor that I found ways to heal in a moment and over time. And I'll talk more about the need for us to center some of our emotional agency around the emotion of grief in just a moment. I want to share, because I feel it's important that we have a common language, that we start with understanding that there may be a number of different examples or definitions of diversity, equity, inclusion. And I'm just going to lift up one of those that has been important for me to center my work around. So when we think about diversity, it's the physical, social, and psychological differences between people and groups, including things like race, ethnicity, gender, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, national origin, tribe, social economic status, thinking, and communication styles. And so there's a lot there that we can think about and the fullness and the abundance of diversity. And I want to just share with you that it's been my experience that as we try to work towards this goal of diversity, that we oftentimes are needing to work through current or historical messages that focusing on differences will only lead to problems. And that if we look at differences, we can only come up with the ways that things separate us instead of leaning into the fact that we're all different. And through being able to honor differences, we will be able to move through together towards our own freedom, liberation, and our own democracy. The second term, equity, when everyone can reach their highest level of health and potential for successful life, regardless of their background and identity. And again, I lift this up because I know that many of you on this webinar are centered on bringing better equity-based outcomes in the communities that you work in. And I thank you for that. I also want to center the conversation around the national dialogue that oftentimes pushes us towards centering equality at the expense of equity. And equality oftentimes has us wanting to forget or even not think about the fact that we don't all start together and we don't end up together. And there's systems that are operating that allow some groups to receive benefits at the expense of others. And I'll again speak more about that. And then inclusion puts diversity into meaningful action and builds a culture of belonging, respect, and connection by actively inviting the contributions and participation of all people. This can be one of our goals, is to think about who are we including, and also asking ourselves who else needs to be at the table. And so it is through using these three concepts of diversity, equity, inclusion, and sometimes focusing on one of them that might help to inform the other two, or to focus on one of them because it's the work that we need to be doing individually and collectively, that we can find pathways forward that will benefit all of us. I also want to share that there is scholarship that's been added in 2021 to the breadth of scholarship around issues related to diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism, social justice, and the other fields that inform the ways that we can do our work better. And I want to, in this moment, lift up the work of gotta get to my notes here, of Dr. Jacqueline Bruce and Dr. Catherine McKee, who have written a book called Transformational Leadership in Action, utilizing our skills to become transformational leaders. And they really provide us with a great frame to think about our leadership. And I'm going to talk about leadership, and they talk about leadership in its most abundant form, not just the positional leader, but all of us that can have advocacy or agency in any given situation. So as a whole, transformational leadership theory asks leaders to work with others, to build capacity, to develop other leaders, not followers, to achieve a desired and equitable outcome. Transformative leaders are not only those who hold formal positions of leadership, but also those who exercise leadership through their influence in multiple informal spheres. And there's two fundamental premises that inform transformational leadership theory. The first is that whenever participants in an organization feel disrespected, excluded, or marginalized, are worried about how they will be treated or what failure might mean for their social or cultural group, they will be unable to work to their full potential, to fully participate, and hence their individual achievement will be limited. And we can take that not only to the organizational level, but also think about our communities that we work in. And the second premise is that when people are both encouraged and enabled to participate fully in a deliberative process and actions of an institution, community, or organization, capacity and civic participation are developed and our very democratic society is strengthened. So we can see that these outcomes, if we're willing to move into and live into transformational leadership, that it benefits all of us, and it benefits our democracy in ways that allows us to live into our full potential. And they share some of the tenets that might help to support changing the course of those two outcomes. That we need to think about deep equitable change, that we need to deconstruct knowledge frameworks that perpetuate inequalities, inequities, and injustice, and that we need to address the inequitable distribution of power, focus on democracy, emancipation, equity, and justice, and the emphasis on interconnectedness, interdependence, and global awareness, And finally, the necessity of balancing critique with promise and call to exhibit moral courage. So I feel that this helps to ground me in the work that I'm trying to achieve. And I hope that you find inroads for yourself and how you can show up in these spaces that need all of our assistance to move things forward. And I also believe that it's important as transformational leaders, and it's shown in some of the research that is provided here on this screen, is that we need to encourage ourselves and be centered around being systems thinkers. And I want to provide for you a frame that has been helpful throughout my career in helping people to look at how we need to identify oppression and change at 4 levels. And so we see that it starts out with the personal level, where we begin to think about our values, beliefs, and our feelings. And we begin to think about the people that gave us those or bestowed those or shared those with us. And also begin to connect institutions that support those or maybe bring some of those values, beliefs, and feelings into question. We begin to think about how those values, beliefs, and feelings aren't stagnant, but they're things that we're hopefully developing, deconstructing, reconstructing throughout a lifetime. And ultimately that we understand that those values, beliefs, and feelings are giving us messages about ourselves, oftentimes that the way that we feel, what we value, or what we believe is better than, and that it's giving us messages about people who are different from ourselves, oftentimes from a place of judgment. And so we move then to the interpersonal level. We have these values, beliefs, and feelings, and we begin to take those and put them into action through our behaviors or our language. And we begin to understand that we may not have everything that we need, or that our good intentions may also fall very hard on people that we're trying to include in our processes and in our organizations. And so can we be self-reflective in those moments? Can we hear that feedback and then move towards a collective way of understanding what my role may be in order to change the outcome for myself or people in my communities or organization? And then we start to look at the institutional level, the rules, policies, procedures, and practices, some of them that really support diversity, equity, and inclusion outcomes, and some of them that are at the core of what we need to do to change organizationally to live into those commitments. And we begin to understand also that not all these rules, policies, and procedures or practices are written down. They become part of our cultural milieu as an organization, and understand that oftentimes those are the most difficult to identify and the most difficult to navigate if you're not a member of the dominant culture. And then we begin to look at the cultural level, the ways that we define what's beautiful, what's true, what's right, what's normal. And in doing that, and being able to understand or develop an understanding of those concepts of truth or what's right, what's normal, what's beautiful, we then begin to develop a narrative that again can be supportive of more inclusive outcomes, or it can be the biggest barrier. And that narrative is not only something that I individually develop, but it can also be a narrative that our organization develops about itself or the communities that we're working to interact with. And so my remainder of my remarks will ask us to look at each of these levels, and I'm going to try to pinpoint a couple of things that I think are really important for us to focus in on if our desire is not only to perpetuate oppression at these levels, but also to support change. And so at the personal level, it's looking at our values, beliefs, and feelings, and being centered on developing and building a sense of ourselves, and then building the emotional literacy and the ability to not look away. Are we aware that in any given situation, we often bring 3 different types of identity to that situation. Our unique individual identity, our kind of our meanest, who we are, how we see ourselves, how we interact, how we're trying to live into those values, beliefs, and feelings. And that is wonderful that we can identify. And oftentimes that's the easiest place we can identify a sense of self. We then also need to understand that even as individuals, we are members of groups. Those groups help to identify our membership related to race, ethnicity, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, class, disabilities, and other forms of differences. And sometimes we're aware and we're able to name that we bring that difference to the table. And other times there are people in a very quick process of just getting to know us or just seeing us, that they're placing those identities that we may or may not belong to. An example of that is based on my name and based on how I show up. There's oftentimes the identity of being an immigrant to this country placed upon me. Sometimes I'm aware of it, other times I'm not. And sometimes when I become aware of it, I have to very clearly let people know that I'm very prideful that my family has 5 generations in this country. And that if we were to go back to where we came from, it would be Laredo, Texas. And that doesn't make me an immigrant. And I have immigrants to this country that are part of my family and part of my larger community of Latinx, Latinos, or Mexicans. So how do we hold that complexity? And then the last type of identity that we may be able to live into, we may be able to experience in the moment or over time. And I think that I would share with you that I think we have the responsibility to create these spaces of intersectionality, where we can allow people to bring their full selves into spaces that we create for learning and dialogue and interaction with each other. Where are those spaces? Can we identify those in our workplaces? Can we identify those in our communities? Can we identify what we are doing with the content of our programs to build a sense of intersectionality so that when people show up, they can see themselves reflected, both in the content and the process of the good work that we're doing in our communities. We also need to understand that building a sense of self needs to be connected to how our identities interact with systems of oppression. That it's not just enough for me to know that I identify as male, but I'm a male within the systems of sexism and patriarchy. And I need to also understand that the privileges that I receive because of my membership as a male aren't neutral. They're at the expense of girls and women in my life, those that I meet along my pathways, those that are here present in today's webinar, and that my work is to identify how I can transform those privileges into support and co-leadership or getting out of the way of women and girls as they seek to show up as their full selves in the spaces that I'm a part of or the spaces that I create. And so it's important for us to know that in this journey of understanding who we are, that there is great joy in understanding who we are. There's great joy in understanding that this self-work can help us to move towards non-judgment of others because we have self-esteem and we don't have the need to have to justify who we are. We do that through building trust with myself and others and exercise skills of self-reflection, self-compassion, and accountability, and commit to a lifelong journey of challenge, change, and justice. And I want to also recognize that if you identify as Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian or Pacific Islander, or Middle Eastern or Arab American, or other marginalized identities within the systems we operate in, and you're doing this self-work, often as a form of resistance and thriving, that I ask you to not lose your center, your wisdom, which oftentimes comes under question or attack in spaces where we find ourselves on the margins. Your core wisdom needs to help to continue to inform all of our collective liberation. So what does emotions have to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion? It's a question that I was faced with almost 22 years ago when I was in a learning space with Visions Incorporated, the consultant group that has helped to inform our process at Michigan State University Extension. And after some introductions and some welcoming exercises that we did, we took a break and we came back. And for the next hour, I sat impatiently. I sat with great anger, I can name it in this moment, that the conversation turned to building emotional literacy. And my impatience and my anger was, I thought I had come here for a diversity workshop. And we're centering our conversation around emotions. What does emotions have to do with anti-oppression work? That's where I was 22 years ago. And I would say with the leadership and the support of many different women and men who were further along on their journeys than what I was at the time, they helped me to start my own journey around understanding that one of the pieces of our identity are our emotions and the ways that we're quickly socialized into understanding or living into the fact that I can only show certain emotions as a boy or as a man. And I feel that I got a double message, both from the dominant culture about that, but also from my Latino parents, my Mexican parents, through the cultural lens of what was acceptable for me and my four brothers. And so knowing that we're born with a connection to all of our emotions, and that we quickly begin to understand through the socialization process that there are particular emotions that we may not be able to share, or there may be particular ones that we can share. And oftentimes those might be at our expense or the expense of our relationship with others. And so what are the messages that we've received over a lifetime or maybe yesterday? And oftentimes those messages that we receive are mixed or contradictory messages about emotions. Boys and men don't cry. Girls and women are too emotional. Emotions only complicate already difficult situations or issues. Tone down your emotions or people will be unable to hear your message. Being characterized as the angry Mexican will hold you back. And so we hear these messages from the dominant culture and we're trying to make sense of them. And also, in many cases, I know it was for me, that I was oftentimes running away from what was at my core wisdom, that my emotions were helping me to try to understand. We need to be able to create those spaces and understand that our emotions are one of the gateways into who we are, what we are experiencing, and what we might need for ourselves or from ourselves and or with others. And having access to language to name the full breadth of our emotions in spaces that allow us to bring our full selves, even in our full emotions, even the hard emotions, can support diversity, clarity, vulnerability, and needed trust. In the work that I do, one of the emotions that I can oftentimes show up in the spaces working towards greater diversity, equity, and inclusion is shame. Shame about what we said or what we did. Shame about what we know or don't know. Shame about how others experience us, or shame for what was done in our name in the past that informs the current reality. We can learn a lot from the work of Dr. Brene Brown, who's been a huge influence as a literary mentor in my life. And I just want to share how she begins to identify shame. It's an intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and unworthy of love and belonging. It's a fear of disconnection. It's a full contact, full body emotion, and it diminishes our capacity to practice empathy. And as we experience shame, it breeds shame, secrecy, and judgment. What we are learning about from the research of the Stone Center at Wesleyan College, we learn that our shame spirals will often have us moving away, withdrawing or isolating ourselves, moving towards to seek to please or seek approval, or move against, to fight shame with shame, exert power over others, or move into that flight response. It has also been my experience in facilitating and educating in spaces that center racial equity, that for some white people, experiences of shame occur, and then they begin to target Black and brown people for sharing or causing their shame by what they have shared or named, typically not directed at any one person in particular, instead of owning that their shame may have been triggered and that working to take good care of themselves in this moment of cognitive learning and dissonance is the best that they might be able to do for themselves. So what can we do to combat shame? What I would ask us to consider is, how do we move ourselves and the people that we work with and the people that we work to serve into empathetic concern, where we center the interconnectedness with each other. We move towards shifting our center and navigate away from judgment to curiosity. We practice listening deeply to the realities of others. We check in with those individuals to make sure that we understand them and their feelings and experiences. And that noticing that practicing empathetic concern and connecting outwardly instead of going inwardly where shame and guilt can push us provides another opportunity to build trust and needed connection. I would add that at this time when our nation has experienced much loss from the COVID pandemic, which has disproportionately impacted communities of color, and the current and historical pandemic of racism, we have seen many, not all, white people exercising the privilege of looking away, or at the minimum, turning to performative measures to address systemic inequalities. I believe that one of the missing keys is for white people to open up themselves to experience grief. The grief of the loss of human connection, human life, and the potential of others, and for the current and historical costs that the system of racism has on all of us. Grief and loss are emotions that many people in communities of color and other marginalized groups don't have an option not to feel during these public or more private expressions of racism. By overstepping grief, people in dominant groups lose the opportunity to self-reflect, build empathetic concern, and identify opportunities for repair and honor the many losses that hurt all of us. Building self-awareness and emotional literacy and the ability to not look away provides a foundation to support two of the qualities of authentic relationships across differences. Let me lift up the willingness to look at myself when feelings of mad, sad, or scared surface, and the willingness and eagerness to be challenged. So we move on. Let me share with you the wisdom of the Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams, who tells us and offers to us that for us to transform as a society, we have to allow ourselves to be transformed as individuals. And for us to be transformed as individuals, we have to allow for the incompleteness of any of our truths and the real forgiveness for the complexity of human beings. You'll see the words of other people have influenced my life or influenced my thoughts in order to center other people who have been marginalized or whose words might be away from the center. So if we move to the interpersonal level, I'm asking you to consider that one of the gateways to our wisdom and our ability to connect across our differences is to move from judgment to curiosity and to practice partnership and accountability. As we experience the direct and indirect process of developing our beliefs and values, we may not be aware that we're also developing a worldview or the way we see ourselves in relationship to the world. That information gets repeated over time by people who love and care for us, and also from institutions that we trust, like our families, schools, our spiritual communities. And we begin to formulate these experiences as one way, as the right way to live. Being aware of these sets of values or worldviews is not enough, as they can also make us susceptible to unconscious or implicit bias when we begin to judge our way as the right way and being better than, and any other way that we encounter as being less than. And that the only way for me to be with others is for them to assimilate and move towards me. We do have an option in those situations of acculturation, where we find the assets in the lives and the experiences of everyone as a way of being and thinking in all that we do and present as the ways that we can move towards a more collective vision and reality of change. This information is the opportunity, if we're willing to sit with the fact that we have a worldview and that it's something that is pliable and something we can change, it can help us to understand how we move in these difficult spaces, oftentimes from judgment to curiosity. Curiosity might not always be available to us, especially if we're on the receiving end of oppression, and it can be a tool to remain present and open to learning. In curiosity, I can notice when I'm in debate and try to move towards dialogue. I can turn to wonder when I hear something that challenges my thinking, and I can ask myself, what can I learn through this interaction in this moment? I can move away from denial and defensiveness and move towards connection and self-reflection. This is also a critical moment where one can work to build trust across differences. Can I position myself to understand that the person that is across from me has chosen me to share something precious or important to them? And although it might not be gift wrapped the way that I am familiar with, it is a gift nonetheless. And I see this happening in organizations that I've been a part of or I've been able to work with, where people get defensive or go into denial instead of honoring the fact that this person picked you out of everybody to trust with this precious thought or this precious experience. And how do I shift myself to just being with them in that space, even if it's hard? So dominant culture wants us to believe that by gathering diverse people with limited voice and power at a square table with someone at the head who may even exemplify diversity, that this is partnership. This illustration can show that we can have diversity at the table, but if the operating factor is power over, we will maintain this dominator model where somebody sits at the head of the table. We have diversity around the table, but we're very much aware of who's in charge or who has the power. And one of the options that we can move towards is thinking about what would this look like in partnership? And the illustration that you see in front of you can help us to understand that it might be illustrated as a round table where we have diversity at the table, but our operating way of being with each other is power with, power within, and shared power. I'm amazed at the number of times that I hear or I see people articulating that they're in partnership with organizations or with individuals. And they very much continue to operate with a power over whether it's named or whether it's visible. And so how do we shift, knowing that if we look at the power being abundant, we can share it with others. And by working together, we can begin to create a collective way that we can move forward. If we're looking at partnerships of accountability, we need to lead with the belief and understanding that those most impacted by systems of oppression like racism, sexism, ableism, know what they need and what they want. That they are born with the inherent worth, and it is our job to lift that wisdom or set of assets and use them collectively as we bring our assets to the situation, and that we build trust. And in doing so, we can create a pathway forward. We take risk, we learn from our mistakes, we open ourselves to correction and apologies, and work to repair relationships if that's possible. We work towards self-compassionate and compassionate accountability. I would identify compassionate accountability as the everyday actions and behaviors that we engage in to build the resilience to remain in relationship even when it's hard. The ways that our leadership embodies the disciplines and the outcomes actualized as unconditional trust, respect, honesty, truth, transparency, fairness, equity, care, self-care, and forgiveness. If we're willing to work at the interpersonal level on these two characteristics, we will be able to live into the characteristics of authentic relationships, the willingness to be compassionate with myself and others, and the willingness to focus on the impact of my words and actions rather than my intentions. And so I bring forth the wisdom of Austin Channing Brown, who asked us to consider that our only chance at dismantling racial injustice is to be more curious about its origins, and that we are less worried about our comfort. It's not a comfortable conversation for any of us. It's risky and messy. It's haunting work to recall the sins of our past. But is this not the work that we have been called to do anyway? Is this not the work of the Holy Spirit to illuminate truth and inspire transformation? It's haunting, but it's also holy. So as we move forward, we begin to think about the ways that we might work at the institutional level. And one of the ways that we can think about this is the work that we need to hold ourselves and our organizations accountable for our alignment, and also to identify our sphere of influence. And so when we think about organizational alignment, can we honestly say that the rules, policies, procedures, and practices that we abide by or that we uphold or that we're trying to establish with others really do align themselves with diversity, equity, and inclusion outcomes? And how do we stay in this space where we can look at what are the current rules, policies, procedures, and practices that live into those commitments. Because I can tell you, as we've done this work at Michigan State University Extension, we're not starting from an empty cup. We are starting knowing that there are certain policies and procedures and practices that live into our commitments related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we're also finding that there are some that have disparate impact on people that are at the margins of our organization or our communities. And so how do we build the resilience to look at those and then also continue to do the good work that we've been asked to do as members of our organization? It's important to also look at, do our organizational mission, values, or other commitments support our diversity, equity, and inclusion goals and objectives? And can members of our organization across our careers articulate their role in helping to support this mission or these commitments? We also need to ask ourselves, do we have the resources? Some of those can be people, some of those can be partnerships, some of those can be monetary, that would help us to align our actions with what we say we're committed to. This is an ongoing process of change and also being able to sit with the uncomfortableness that may be illuminated when we start to really investigate that there's a disconnection between our rules, policies, and practices with what our organization says it is or is working to be. It can be also overwhelming. And in these processes, we need to identify what our sphere of influence is. And in doing so, we can identify what our agency is. There are times where I get stuck in thinking I have to change all of Michigan State University Extension. And I even act in ways that I can change MSU Extension. And when I'm in those spaces, I begin to understand that I do have a place of influence. I do have a sphere of influence. And I do have, and one of those spheres is working with leaders within our organization to help embody what we want as our organizational culture and also as our organizational outcomes with diversity, equity, and inclusion. One of the things that I'm proud to share is that it's now almost 2 years ago where I was a part of a group that helped to develop diversity, equity, and inclusion beliefs and commitments for our organization that got vetted through our leadership team and also members of our organization. And they now are providing a way that we can look at how are we doing? How can we do better? And we're now starting to build the systems of accountability through individual staff assessments to see how are they doing? What do they see as their role in helping us all to live towards these commitments? So it's important for us to not get overwhelmed and not to be in a place of judgment when we think about our sphere of influence and we place judgment that it might be too small or it may not be as large as we would want it to be. It's important for us to realize that we do have agency. And one of the things that can further enhance our agency is to understand how do we work in partnership with those individuals at the margins to help inform our actions and help inform our commitments. And so if we find ourselves looking at our large organization and specifically looking at our place within a land grant system, can we begin to understand and lead with commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and begin to understand that our civil rights mandates are one of the many tools that can help us achieve our commitments. They're not all the tools we have available, but that they can be a tool. And if we're supported to do the needed and transformative diversity, equity, and inclusion work, and documenting and evaluating those efforts, we can move from a check off the list mentality to transforming our relationships and organizations. So we have the opportunity, and I'm asking you to consider what is your role in this work and your place of influence. It may also be helpful to understand that we don't have all the answers, that we may need to turn to the people most impacted by different forms of oppression. Like maybe we start affinity groups or employee resource groups within our organizations, or we turn to our partners from communities that are most marginalized to help direct our actions or help influence our leadership. And so it then creates the opportunity for us to be on this journey of ongoing learning. And I lift up the work and the wisdom of Bell Hooks, who asked us to consider that dominator culture has tried to keep us all afraid, to make us choose safety instead of risk, sameness instead of diversity, moving through that fear, finding out what connects us, reveling in our differences. This is the process that brings us closer, that gives us a world of shared values, of meaningful community. And at the cultural level, I want you to consider and examine and add to our narratives. So do we know what our narrative is about ourselves, about how we define truth or right or what's normal? And do we know about the narrative that we have as educators working for Extension or in spaces where we are being asked to represent our organization? And understanding that that narrative can be closed or it can be more open and pliable. And so we begin to think about, how do we develop that understanding of how we define truth or what's right or what's normal? That the narratives can be fixed about ourselves or people different from ourselves, or remain more open or pliable. And as we have new experiences, we drop old and unhelpful biases. We have greater access to positive life outcomes, and we participate in relationship and organizations that support and center belonging. What is the narrative about who we are as a land-grant institution? When we describe the members of your state's land-grant institutions, do you include our 1890s and our 1994 institutions and staff, if they exist in your state? And are we actively working with them to center their needs and issues to improve our entire state system? What is our organizational narrative about diversity, equity, and inclusion? Are these issues that can be fixed solely with training or education? Or do we see education as one of the many tools that can be used to inform a larger organizational commitment? Do we see this commitment as a sum-loss gain? Or the work that we need to do to sustain us and to add to our relevancy? I ask you to think about, what is your narrative about evidence-based curriculum? Does this narrative create a space for the wisdom and the lived experiences of our diverse program participants? Can they see themselves as co-creators of their liberation or people of communities that have deficits or need to be saved? So are they seeing themselves with agency, or are they seeing themselves as vessels that need to be filled by us in order to be saved or to have to address those deficits? What are our narratives of ourselves as educators? Are we content specialists or are we facilitators? And do we try to hold the complexity of both content and process as a way to move towards greater efficacy and also greater impact? Are we even aware of the narrative that communities that have been marginalized have about our organization or institution? Are we actively attempting to hear that narrative to inform our work? Or are we shying away from it? Or are we totally oblivious to it? If our narratives remain fixed, our leadership and organizational culture may directly or indirectly support and replicate the values of only one right way, quantity over quality, defensiveness, paternalism, and/or power over. We'll struggle to support innovation, risk-taking, authentic and honest relationship building, and opportunities for partnership and lifting our collective wisdom. Expanding our narratives to see us working in partnership with others, especially those who have not been welcomed or supported, may also bring clarity about what our role can be. That we can be learners in those spaces and support the leadership of those communities, and that there's value in that role. As we look to expand or transform our narratives, I offer you the gift of both and thinking. How do we work with ourselves and others in ways that allow us to name the complexities or hold the complexities with each other? If we practice both and thinking, it provides us with the opportunity to hold multiple realities and perspectives and honor them and hold them even when they feel like they're at their polar opposites. And it can help to inform our pathways moving forward. Both and thinking challenges us to move beyond simple answers and processes to deal with the complexity of our lives and the issues our organizations and communities are facing. If we're willing to examine and add to our narratives, then it can support the authentic relationship qualities of willing not to be in the place of denial, and the willingness to share and listen deeply to each other's stories. It's important that we use our system thinking and as we continue to support and sustain meaningful change. A number of years ago, I had the honor of being asked to co-write the piece that was shared with you at the beginning of this webinar, or it may have been when you registered. It's Qualities of Authentic Relationships Across Differences. As any good, or I would say transformative pieces start, it started in a conversation with myself and my colleague Karen Pace. And we began to write down on a meal napkin some of the qualities that we felt that were important in our relationship across various differences, including gender and race. And we began to provide what we thought could be a helpful tool in our learning. I want to make sure that you know that this piece is not meant to be a panacea or a magic destination, that if we can live into all these qualities, then we're going to be able to authentically work across differences of all kinds. That we offer these as possible options with love and compassion. And that critical to our identifying these qualities is the beginning piece in many of these. And that is our willingness to. And as you read these or as you reflect on them, I ask you to consider, what does it mean for you to position yourself emotionally, spiritually, and otherwise to be willing to be open, to feel connection through our differences. And in doing so, as you look at that document, if you have it open, I would also want you to reflect on which of these qualities are you good at or even gifted at? Which of these qualities are harder for you? And which of these qualities would you name in your relationships across differences that aren't on this list? I feel this could be a gateway to better understanding ourselves and each other. And as I come to a close, I just offer that one of the ways that we can start that authentic relationship building is to look at and look for the people at the margins in our organizations and our communities before looking elsewhere, and honor their wisdom in your relationships, in your work, and then create pathways that are specific to your organization or your community that can then add a larger narrative to the work that is happening across the country. I invite you all on this journey of resistance, love, complexity, and diversity and equity-centered change that will ultimately benefit us all.
Thank you, Dr. Pizzagna, for such a wonderful and timely presentation. We're so grateful that you were willing and able to participate virtually and allow us to keep this as part of our program. Thank you again. And I see some applause and comments in the chat. At this time, I would like to welcome two individuals, Nancy Bach, Executive Director of AAFCS, and Peggy Wild, PhD, CFCS, Co-Chair of the Alliance for FCS.
Hello, Extension colleagues and friends. One of the best things that has happened during the pandemic has been the opportunity for all of us to participate in dozens of conferences and events. I really wish we were together, but I'm thankful that we can meet virtually and that I'm here today to bring greetings from the American Association of Family and Consumer Sciences. NEAFCS is a critical and very important partner of AAFCS on the national, state, and local level, and we have been for many, many years. Your creed reads, as an educator, my prime concern is people. And that is the tie between our associations that truly binds us together. Your conference theme, Great Depths, Greater Impact, is thoughtful, meaningful, and exactly what our association believes is essential for all FCS groups, organizations, and associations. There is no better time than now for AAFCS and NEAFCS as we continue to collaborate, support, share, strategize our future together. Together, we need to explore greater depths. Together, we can experience greater impact. We're already working together and the results have been significant. I'm going to run through just a few highlights. In recent years, your very own NEAFCS member, Jackie Ogden, served as president of the AAFCS Board of Directors and elevated the visibility of NEAFCS to higher peaks and greater depths. This year, your organization and mine have been meeting quarterly with your president and staff for a catch-up call. By pausing and having these conversations, we can better support each other and share what is happening in our worlds. Did you know that your president, Diane, appeared in the recent issue of the Journal of Family and Consumer Sciences with a very, very special point of view article? Well, she did. And her article begins by saying that family and consumer sciences touches everyone's lives, making FCS education a very integral part of our educational process. In the end of her article, she says, it is imperative that AAFCS and NEAFCS work together, not separately, so we can strive to touch the lives of all. No words have ever been more true. Thank you, Diane, for sharing your thoughts, and we look forward to including NEAFCS in future issues of our journal. When we are meeting in person again, which we will, our organizations will provide complimentary booth space at our in-person annual conference to allow for greater impact. We look forward to having a NEAFCS booth at the 2022 annual conference in Orlando, Florida, June the 25th through the 27th. We're planning for a comeback meeting that NEAFCS has to be a part of. Both of our organizations have rich professional development to share. I'd like to personally invite all of you to participate in our special FCS Day Zoom celebration on December 3rd at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. The 2022 theme is FCS Ties It All Together. This year, we will bring together multiple content areas that are apropos to NEAFCS professionals, and they are food, fashion, and furnishings, family, and more. And we're planning to use the apron to tie in a little fun. We chose the apron because it has long been a symbol of generosity and hospitality. One of its most notable qualities is helpfulness. Like the apron, family and consumer professionals give generously to individuals, families, and communities that they serve. Our event will feature an apron curator and author of a book, and the recipient of a high school educator award for Carnegie Science Center, a very special FCS Day design showcase, and favorite healthy recipes and more. You'll find all the details on the AAFCS website. And if you have questions, feel free to let us know at any time. Please know that our events are open to all FCS professionals. NEAFCS is a part of our family. I hope you will join us for FCS Day for some food, for fashion, fellowship, fun, and guaranteed a few surprises. Visibility is essential to our profession. So as AAFCS launched our new #FCS campaign to raise our voices, visibility, and value of FCS, I've noticed how many of you in Extension are using the #FCS logo in your work, and we greatly appreciate that. Our website is chock full of resources, including a toolkit that includes logos, Zoom backdrops, webinar recordings, and much more. Our webinar recordings are available to all. Recently, we launched a new Stand Up for FCS exercise that would be a great tool for your affiliates. And you can have some fun working your way through that exercise as well. The campaign is open to all, and you're welcome to use our materials to support your work. In closing today, I honor the greatness in all of you. Because in my career, I've walked in your Extension shoes in 2 different states. That's probably what brings me so close to NEAFCS. You're an inspiration because you're a professional that is critical to society, and it's not always easy. You are having an impact on everyone that you reach and teach. You're juggling a lot of balls, and rarely do you ever drop even one of them. You expect very little, and you give so much. You are all #FCS success. You are here today to learn, grow, and be inspired, and you will always be an inspiration to me. AAFCS created the Alliance for FCS to unify diverse organizations and common purpose in 2006. I'd like to turn the virtual podium over to Dr. Peggy Wild, co-chair of the National Alliance for Family and Consumer Sciences, for an update. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. The Alliance for Family and Consumer Sciences is a vehicle to really unify and amplify the family and consumer sciences mission. The Alliance is a coalition of FCS organizations that lead family and consumer sciences around the globe, beginning with AAFCS and NEAFCS, and then adding the international organization and additional professional organizations. Also student organizations, honor societies, and academia. Also government agencies and relevant industries and trade associations. You'll recognize the brand icon, which was rolled out by the Alliance in 2011, along with key messages, and that was updated in 2018. Branding and advocacy will continue into the future with the help of the Alliance partners and sponsors. And we'll work on strengthening our partnership model and examining our narratives, as we have just been challenged by Dr. Pizzata. I'm sorry, I butchered that name. To see more about the Alliance and the branding initiative, please go to the website at aafcs.org/Alliance for FCS. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for that wonderful information. Next, I would like to welcome Dr. Brenda Martin. Dr. Martin is a national program leader with USDA NIFA. Dr. Martin has worked 23 years in family and consumer sciences at the post-secondary level. She has led faculty and administrative positions at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, Southern Illinois University at Carbondale, and The Ohio State University. Her professional memberships include the American Association of Family and Consumer Sciences and Kappa Omicron Nu Honor Society. Dr. Martin.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Diane. It is such an honor to be here. And I want to say a special hello to my fellow Michiganders. I was born and raised in Benton Harbor, Michigan. And so I always tell everyone, even though I spent 20 years in Arkansas, I am from Michigan. So, and it looks like the program is getting off to a great start. And I'm sure it's because of the work and the good work of the planning committee. So as Diane mentioned, I am a national program leader at USDA NIFA, and relatively new also, but I wanted to stop by and share some information with you because the Division of Family and Consumer Sciences within the agency, we want to be available for you. Next slide, please. We currently have 3 national program leaders, and we're about to get 2 more, also just ready and willing to work on behalf of the field of family and consumer sciences. On the screen there, our division director, our acting division director, as well as he is a national program leader as well, is Keith Harris. And then you have myself, and then next to me there is Ashley Mueller. We are the 3 national program leaders. And the division also have 4 program specialists who assist with major projects that we oversee. And so next to Ashley is Deborah Rayami, and on the bottom row, the first 3 ladies they are Jessica Turner, Crystal Kyle, and Sydney Turner. And then our program assistant is Catherine Nace. So again, we look forward to working for you. We are here for you to help, get the word out about family consumer sciences and to assist our partners with moving forward with our mission. Next slide, please. I want to also tell you about the upcoming conference, which probably most of you are already registered for because it's taking place later this week. The Family Consumer Sciences Annual State Program Leaders Meeting, Thursday and Friday, November 4th and 5th. And just a few of the agenda items. I don't want to take too much of your time because you just have to come to the meeting and see, but we will discuss some major partnerships as well as critical issues in today's society, telehealth and telemedicine, health and safety issues, and we have various Ignite sessions also available to attendees. So again, if you have not received an email from Keith, I believe Keith was the one who sent it out, Keith Harris. If you have not received an invitation, send me an email. My email address is brenda.martin@usda.gov, and I'll make sure Keith sends one to you. But again, that's later this week. And I think, like I said, I think most of you usually continue on after your conference and attend that meeting as well. So we look forward to seeing you later this week. Next slide, please. What's going on at NIFA? I'm not going to read everything to you because again, we're going to go over it in detail at the program leaders meeting later this week, but just want you to know that we will address current issues related to agriculture, food, nutrition, individuals, communities, and we definitely want to make sure that we provide you with quality speakers. So it's a great event that's happening later this week. We'll talk about policy and recommendations related to supply chain that's been in the news recently. Transporting, how do we get our products, or how does the grocery stores, how does any type of retail stores, how do they get their merchandise to them in a timely manner? That's an issue that that's being talked about right now. Local and regional food systems management, as well as prioritizing nutrition security. So again, a variety of topics we'll talk about later this week at the state meeting, but they all come from our national priorities set forth by USDA and NIFA. And I believe that's the last slide. Next slide. I think that's all. I don't think I went too early. There we go. Yeah. So again, thank you so much. We hope to see you later on this week. And thanks again for the invitation.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. The Joint Council of Extension Professionals, or Jsep as many of us call it. Jsep advocates for extension at the state and national level. Jsep serves to foster collaboration between our association and creates synergy for extension. Jsep encourages scholarship and professional improvement through a combined effort.
So the 7 extension professional associations who make up Jsep provide representatives to serve on the Jsep board. We also have representatives or liaisons from NIFA, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, through USDA, the ECOP, which is the Extension Committee on Organization and Policy, and Association of Public and Land Grant University, or the APLU, and our own representative from Jsep is on the ECOP Budget and Legislative Committee. Each association has 3 members on their board serving on the Jsep board. So let me ask you a question. Are you a member? Are you a Jsep member? Well, if you're a member of the National Extension Association of Family and Consumer Sciences, yes, you are.
The 7 organizations that are members of Jsep are ESP Epsilon Sigma Phi, ANREP, the Association of Natural Resource Extension Professionals, NACAA, the National Association of County Agriculture Agents, and NEAFCS, the National Extension Association of Family and Consumer Sciences. That's a tongue twister trying to get all of those in.
So the next organization is NAEP SDP. That stands for National Association of Extension Program and Staff Development Professionals. NACDEP, as we call it, National Association of Community Development Extension Professionals. And then the last organization is the NAE4H YDP, or the National Association of Extension 4-H Youth Development Professionals.
What Jsep organizations are you a member of? If we were in person, I would ask you to raise your hands for each of these organizations. I guess we can still raise our hands. Who's a member of NEAFCS? I hope all of us are. NAE4H YDP, ESP, NACDEP, NACAA, NEAPSDP, or ANREP. That is definitely an alphabet soup.
So JSEP sponsors 2 leadership conferences in the spring each year for JSEP Association members. The JSEP Extension Leadership Conference is scheduled for February 9th and 10th at the Marriott Country Club Plaza in Kansas City. So mark your calendars. The purpose of the conference is to elevate Extension's national reputation as an organization of excellence and synergistically leverage the strengths of member associations to foster leadership, collaboration, professional development, scholarly activity, strategic partnerships, and advocate for the profession. As a JSEP member, you are invited to attend.
ELC call for presentations is currently open. The theme, reflect, reconnect, and recharge. There are 2 speaking opportunities, skill building sessions, which are 20 minutes in length, and training sessions, which are 45 minutes in length. There's also poster opportunities. RFPs are due November 19th. This information has been shared on our NEAFCS Facebook page, and information is also available if you visit the jsep.org website. We look forward to many of our NEAFCS members submitting presentations.
In April, the JSEP Public Issues Leadership Development Conference, or PILD, will be held at the Hyatt Regency Crystal City in Arlington, Virginia. So mark your calendars. Diane and I both encourage you to attend, and better yet, plan to submit a proposal to present. Call for proposals for PILD will be coming out soon.
JSEP contributes $250 towards awards for each of the 7 member organizations. Our NEAFCS Innovation in Programming Award receives this JSEP funding to support an annual session scholarship. And we will be recognizing our Innovation in Programming Award winner Friday during our awards ceremony.
So JSEP is all of us, and the programming that we do to help communities thrive. JSEP strives to engage Extension professionals by providing opportunities to improve their abilities, to help partner organizations work together, and to help communicate the value of Extension to our local clientele. You can learn more about JSEP and the conferences that we've talked about at the website jsep.org.
Please help me in welcoming Roxy Price, our immediate past president and current chair of the nominating committee. She will be presenting the candidates for national office.
Hey y'all, and thank you, Diane. Like she said, I'm your immediate past president for NEAFCS. A responsibility that I have is being the chair of the National Nominating Committee. So that compromised several of your members who did a lot of hard work. But before we start talking about the candidates and their presentations, I did want to let you know that back in about the middle of October, we did have a candidate who had their application in for Vice President of Public Affairs. That individual needed to withdraw their application. At that time, according to our bylaws, there were no individuals that were eligible for that position at that time. But your National Nominating Committee has been working very hard, and at this time, we do have candidates who would be eligible for that position, which is a 2-year term. Again, looking at our bylaws, since we're going to have to do that a little bit later than we do now, we are happy to say Mary Liz has agreed to continue to serve in that role until her successor is elected. Any questions, let me know. The board, according to the bylaws, again, y'all can look, the board is the one who will vote on that position, since this is past the deadline for candidates for the membership to vote on here. Again, any questions? Just send them to me and I'll ask Danielle. All right, so the candidates, they're given a question. They're all given the same question, and it was sent to them about a month ago. And here's the question that the candidates get. Within the position that you're running for, identify one challenge any AFCS members face and discuss how you will help the membership overcome that challenge during your term. So we're going to see videos of the candidates' 3-minute presentation. So first, you're going to hear from Julie Garden Robinson. She's from North Dakota, a candidate for president-elect. Followed by Glenn Sturm from Virginia. He's our candidate for treasurer. John Fuller, and also Samantha Kennedy is from Florida, and John's from Missouri. They are running for the position of vice president for awards and recognition. Okay, Will, run our presentations.
Hi, I'm Julie Garden Robinson. I'm a food and nutrition specialist and professor at North Dakota State University, located in Fargo. I'm very excited to be running for the office of president-elect. I strongly believe in the mission of NEAFCS. I have been on the board for the past 4 years, where I've served as the Vice President for Public Affairs, and currently I am the Vice President of Awards and Recognition. That makes me keenly aware of our collective impacts on all the wonderful programs that all of you do. As you might guess from my surroundings, I work in the area of nutrition, food safety, and health, where I do research and programming. I know that many of you work in communities, in parenting and families, family finances, disaster education, and in other topics. In my 25+ year career, one challenge, one question keeps coming up. Is our 100+ year old nationwide network still relevant? I think we're not only relevant, but we're also very resilient, especially in the time of our pandemic. But do lots of people know what we offer and how we can help them? We certainly are the premier research-based educational network in the United States, if not the world. But some of us call ourselves the best kept secret. I think we could work together across states and regions, and we could implement an updated FCS marketing and outreach campaign. I believe this would expand our audiences both in person and virtually. I also know that nothing worthwhile can be accomplished alone. I would need your input, your support, and your assistance to develop something that's truly innovative and exciting. Together, we can accomplish so much. I would certainly work hard as your president-elect and future president, and I would listen to you. Let's move forward for future generations of FCS. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Glenn Sturm, a Family Consumer Sciences Extension Agent for Virginia Cooperative Extension and a candidate for NEAFCS Treasurer. When considering the challenges that NEAFCS members face, particularly as it pertains to the position of NEAFCS Treasurer, the first thing that comes to mind is my money being used in a meaningful way, not only for the members' current professional benefits, but also for the longevity of the association? For many FCS educators, annual NEAFCS dues are paid with very limited professional development funds, and sometimes out of their own pocket. It is critical that the association spend those funds in a worthwhile way for immediate professional needs, as well as taking care of the long-term sustainability of the association. With that in mind, if I were to be elected NEAFCS Treasurer, one of my central goals would be transparency. Whether it's in monthly newsletters, periodic communications to NEAFCS members, or informally through discussions, it would be my goal to ensure members are properly informed of how their dues are being spent or invested by the association. Additionally, I will make it a point to provide an opportunity for members' feedback on spending and investment decisions to bring those thoughts and concerns forward to the rest of the board. Thank you so much, and I look forward to potentially serving as your treasurer.
Hi, I'm John Fuller with the University of Missouri. I am a Human Development and Family Science Specialist. I am also a candidate for the VP for Awards and Recognition. And one of the questions that was asked of me is, what do I see as an obstacle when it comes to awards and recognition? I think it's the one we all kind of have a hard time struggling with, is getting more people to apply for awards. Now, a lot of times we don't like to do awards because we don't want to toot our own horn. But I think what I'd like to do is to change a little bit of how we look at things, in the sense that, awards, if we do some of these out there, that we can get some national recognition, get some companies that are looking at some of the great works that we're doing, and maybe find a way that they can partner some of their products with us, is one way of looking at it. Could you imagine if somebody came up with a program that a national chain wanted to use that program as an advertisement across the United States? Could you imagine what that would look like on your NTT? So that's what I'm kind of hoping for this year. I gladly would like your support. My name is John Fuller, and I'm a candidate for the Vice President of Awards and Recognition.
Awards and recognition is one of the most important areas within NEAFCS. Being able to provide members with a way to showcase and reward their excellent work on a national scale is just one of the benefits of our professional association. One of the biggest challenges I have encountered during the awards process is just getting enough people to apply. In my affiliate, several awards tend to go unapplied for each year, and many other awards only have 1 or 2 people apply. This is very disappointing, as I know many of my colleagues do amazing work that should be submitted for recognition, and yet they do not apply. Whether this is because of lack of time, confidence, or motivation, it is something that needs to be addressed. And if this is an issue in my affiliate, I am certain it is an issue for many other affiliates as well. As Vice President of Awards and Recognition, I would work with each regional director and each affiliate awards chair to develop a strategy for reaching out to affiliate members and encouraging them to apply for awards. By collecting feedback from affiliates about the barriers they may have in applying for awards, a more targeted strategy could be developed to boost the number of award applications in each category. Other ideas for promoting awards and recognition include providing webinars on the importance of awards and recognition within our profession and how they can strengthen the overall FCS brand, a continuation of the how-to seminars on writing winning applications, and a targeted marketing campaign to reach out to newer NEAFCS members who may not be as knowledgeable about awards or their eligibility to apply. The Executive Board and the executive staff have done a very good job in building a comprehensive awards webpage on the NEAFCS website with tutorials and other helpful tips for applying for awards. But despite their best efforts to remind members about awards, I think a more refined and active strategy could be implemented to encourage more members to submit their work for consideration. Awards and recognition is one of the most vital aspects of NEAFCS membership. Being recognized for excellent work and dedication to our profession can only enhance both FCS and our professional association. By providing members, both new and seasoned, with the tools and confidence needed to apply for awards, we can increase the total number of applicants and improve the overall quality of the awards and recognition program at the national level. Thank you.
And thank you to all the candidates. It's very exciting to see very confident and very capable candidates. If you would like to be a candidate in the near future, check out our new leadership experience where we do build confidence out of capable members. Your voting delegates, they're going to be voting on during their business meeting on Thursday. Central and Southern Region Director candidates, they're going to present their, let me back up, Central and Southern Regional, their candidates will be giving their presentations during your regional awards and business meeting. Your voting delegates are going to vote on these candidates you just saw at our business meeting. And I need you to know, delegates, you should be bringing the vote here from your affiliate members. And if that didn't happen this year, now everybody knows. You ask your affiliate who they think would be the best candidate for this position, and you bring forth their vote. So good luck to everybody. Y'all are awesome. Appreciate it.
Good luck to all of our candidates. At this time, here to present an update on our very own NEAFCS endowment. Please help me welcome one of our Endowment Committee co-chairs, Mary Ann Linehart Cross.
Hello, welcome. I want to start out my report in congratulating everybody to make an effort to participate in our meetings. I'm coming to you from my home office, so it's kind of cluttery like I am. But I want to start out by first thanking the members who serve on our committee. Co-chairing with me is Marsha Lockard, our treasurer, Barb Wolhan, Karen Ensel, Carrie Mayhew, Debbie Matthews, Abigail Pritchard, Peg Ellers, our president, Diane, Judy Hutterman, Janet Hollingsworth, Shanna Whitehall, and Roxy Price, who you just heard from. I can't stress enough the importance for members to be involved with committees. And I'm going to start really my report now saying, have you heard and donated $21 per member in 2021? This is for the work for your endowment committee. This is your president, Diane's charity. You've now heard it, and if you haven't acted, I challenge you to act on it. Yes, your endowment committee has reorganized and is working. Your endowment committee works to assist members in their programming efforts and to increase the visibility of your family and consumer science education work that you do. 4 grants were awarded in 2021 for a $10,000 total. Your endowment committee is encouraging each member to donate at least $21 or more in 2021. For your endowment committee work, we've made it easy to donate. All you need to do is visit your association website. 2021 winners of the teams were led by Western Region, North Dakota, Julie Garden Robbins received $3,000. Central Region, Ohio, Margaret Drinkins also $3,000. The Western Region, Idaho, Shireen Greenway, $3,000. And our 4th one went to Central Region, Brenda Schmidt for $1,000. If you're wondering, how can you become a part? The grants are due January 31st of 2022 for the 2022 grants. So now's the time to organize your team and apply. Plan now to hear your name at the 2022 annual session as an endowment grant winner and all the opportunities that come with it. I encourage you to please join the endowment committee and apply for a grant and donate. I think I've heard it more than once, $21 or more per member for 2021. You can contact members for more information. You can visit your NEFC website and also talk to committee members. I encourage you to really be a part of your organization. When I was president a long time ago, I talked about investing in yourself. The endowment committee is a great way for you to invest in yourself. Have a great annual session and be safe. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Julie Garden Robinson. I'm a food and nutrition specialist and professor at North Dakota State University located in Fargo. For the past 5 years, I've been part of the North Central Food Safety Extension Network. We teach about food preservation and other aspects of food safety. We've grown from the original 8 states in our region to include representatives from all 12 states. We've developed a tool to measure impact in food preservation across states. In the process, we've developed papers, abstracts, and extension handouts, and we've made many presentations. We're proud of the awards that we've received in food safety and multi-state collaboration. As the co-leader of the team, I was more than pleased to receive funding from the NEAFCS Foundation, and I thank you for that. We believe that we have developed a model to foster communication on any topic. We're in the process of developing best practices handouts and webinars to enhance the formation of other multi-state teams. As we all know, educational practices and life has changed drastically in the past couple years. We hope that by fostering communication and cooperation, we can build the extension network, and our NEAFCS members can shine in the process. Thank you again.
Hello, thank you for letting me speak about my experience with the NEAFCS Endowment for my Idaho Smoking and Grilling Train the Trainer program. I am Sturm Greenway, a Family Consumer Sciences Extension educator with emphasis in food safety, and I collaborated with Scott Jensen, a livestock educator who focuses on meat science. We created a cross-discipline program called Smoking and Grilling, where we offered a lot of hands-on and demonstration opportunities for clientele to educate themselves while making their own food. And in our different programs that we've offered in these 2-night workshops, all in our rural Owyhee County, Scott and I are both located in the same county, we have had over 85 participants in our different programs. This garnered interest from colleagues across the state who wanted to know if we could bring this program to them. And that is where the NEAFCS Endowment created the opportunity for us to offer a Train the Trainer, where we had 13 participants, both colleagues and volunteers attended. And since our training has occurred, 3 participant programs have been structured or implemented. If you look at these photos here, you can see a lot of our colleagues from NEAFCS who attended this training receiving the same type of education that we would be implementing in our participant workshop. So they're receiving those demonstrations and hands-on experiences. And in addition, at our Train the Trainer, they received access to the marketing flyer, agendas, PowerPoints, handouts we created, an IRB evaluation, and an inventory checklist if they were just getting started. The endowment of NEAFCS created the opportunity to also provide access to magnets for attendees of the trainer to give to their participants, as well as a cutting board useful in those hands-on and demonstration pieces of a live program, and thermometers to really incorporate that food safety component. So from the 3 participant programs that have been structured since our workshop, we have clientele definitely that are adults wanting those continued workshops and our colleagues wanting to offer those, but we have opportunity to offer youth programs. And so the next steps are to develop the Smoking and Grilling program specific for those youth audiences. So we're pretty excited, but this could not have been done without the NEAFCS endowment. So thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Gina Lucas from the University of Missouri Extension, and I'm the 2021 chair of the Mentoring and Leadership Committee. I am thrilled to be with you this afternoon. It has been an amazing year for the Mentoring and Leadership Committee, as we have had the honor of creating, planning, and establishing the brand new NEAFCS Leadership Experience. The NEAFCS Leadership Experience is now an annual mentoring and leadership program for future NEAFCS leaders. The program stems from the NEAFCS strategic plan goal of building leadership opportunities from within the membership and providing a formal mentorship program, thereby working to expand members' opportunities for developing leadership skills, experience, and confidence. This newly formed mentorship program promotes personal and professional development for both the mentees as well as the mentors. Due to the hard work of my committee members, the unwavering support of our VP of Member Resources, Michelle Wright, and of course the talent and attentiveness of Will Wizard Ferguson from our management team, the launch of this program has been an amazing success, and it has been an unparalleled learning experience for myself and the other members of my committee. I would now like to share the participants of our 2021 NEAFCS Leadership Experience. So please join me in celebrating the mentees in Cohort 1 of the 2021 NEAFCS Leadership Experience. We have Sarah Bridgewater, University of Missouri, Dana Carney, University of Georgia, Carrie Elson, University of Missouri, Olivia Ferris, University of Kentucky, Angelica Keene, University of Florida, Carrie Krug, Montana State University, Elizabeth Martin, Louisiana State University, and Paige Ray, Utah State University. In Cohort 2, please help me celebrate Alexander Chan, University of Maryland, Amanda Jo Dame, University of Kentucky, Katrin Finch, Montana State University, Mary Beth Hornback, University of Georgia, Casey Ford, University of Arkansas, Kristen Miller, University of Missouri, the late Anastasia Saunders, University of Tennessee, Collie Sullivan from the University of Missouri, and Callie Ward from Utah State University. Of course, an important key to the leadership experience is the mentoring component. The 18 mentors we will now recognize have been absolutely crucial to the success of the NEAFCS leadership experience. Each of these individuals has trained, prepared for, and are committed to coming alongside one of our 2021 leadership experience mentees. Please join me in recognizing the following 2021 NEAFCS leadership experience mentors: Ellen Bajelin, North Dakota State University, Leslie Blanche, University of Idaho, Pat Brinkman, Ohio State University, Chelsea Byers, University of Illinois, Lori Koop, Texas A&M AgriLife, Shannon Cromwell, Utah State University, Sharon Holscher Day, University of Arizona, Karen DeZarn, Texas A&M AgriLife, Glenda Hyde, Oregon State University, and Donna Krug, Kansas State University, Lisa McCoy, University of Maryland, Susan Mills Gray, University of Missouri, Michelle Wright, Texas A&M, Kate Shoemaker, Ohio State University, Cindy Thompson, Iowa State University, Barb Wallen, Iowa State University, Mary Liz Wright, University of Illinois, as well as our own Lori Carthals, Iowa State University. As at the beginning of this session, we pause to remember the members of NEAFCS that we have lost this year. The leadership experience, unfortunately, was not exempt from this pain. We were saddened to learn of the passing of Anastasia Saunders from the University of Tennessee. In her memory, we are pleased to share a new Emerging Leader Mentee Scholarship, which will send one mentee of the NEAFCS leadership experience to annual session each year. Thanks again. Please join me again in congratulating the 2021 class of the NEAFCS leadership experience.
We are so excited about the leadership experience and the emerging leaders that will certainly come from the leadership experience. It is customary for the president to select a charity in the city hosting our annual session. As I was thinking about a charity for 2021, I thought about our very own endowment. Who better to donate to than our very own charitable organization? The endowment was started many years ago and reached the original $300,000 goal in 2017. The endowment is an investment tool, and a portion of the investment income is utilized for targeted projects. By growing the endowment, the investment income generated will be greater. We have heard from the Endowment Committee and 2 of the endowment grantees. Remember, proposals can be submitted by committees, affiliates, or a group of 2 or more members. 4 proposals were awarded this first year. The endowment has 4 themes around which projects can be focused: leadership and professional development, awards and recognition, public issues, and diversity. Let's work together to create a lasting imprint on NEAFCS, support targeted projects, and champion and support the profession that we believe in. Throughout my time on the NEAFCS board, my appreciation for our association, members, and profession has deepened. Please join me in leaving that lasting impression. By continuing to grow the endowment, the investment income will increase. With this, more will be available to our members for innovative projects. A special thank you to those of you who have donated. I'm encouraging each member to donate $21 or more for 2021. So far, $6,711 has been donated to the endowment. A lofty goal of $21,000 was set. Please help reach this goal. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. We heard earlier about the annual session service project, and we are inviting all of you attending to participate in supporting this service project organization, Safe Haven Ministries, which is located in Grand Rapids. Safe Haven Ministries offers confidential emergency shelter for all survivors of domestic violence, support groups, individual supportive counseling, and advocacy through non-residential services, as well as prevention and outreach programs for the entire community. We are asking members to purchase new pajamas, slippers, or fuzzy socks for women and children of all ages, sizes extra small through 5X. And remember that some young boys wear men's size pajamas. How do you donate? Well, you can have items shipped directly to Safe Haven Ministries from Amazon. If you go to our website, to the Professional Development tab, click on 2021 Annual Session, and then click on Service Project, there is a link that will take you directly to the Safe Haven Ministries wish list.
Mr. Gina Perry. And my name is Courtney Aldridge. We're the Michigan Conference Co-Liaisons for this year's NEAFCS conference.
While it is unfortunate that we were not able to meet in person, we thought we would bring a little of Grand Rapids to you here in the Grand Ideas Garden, located at MSU Extension, Kent County.
We want to take a moment to thank all of those people in Michigan who worked so hard to plan this year's conference. So to start, I'd like to thank Vivian and her committee for their work in securing the keynote speaker and planning our pre-conference sessions.
And thank you to Deanna and Stephanie and their committee for planning our opening session and our leadership event.
I'd like to thank Dawn and Holly and their committee for planning our in-depth sessions.
Thank you to Erin and her committee for their work on videos, articles, and all things communications related.
Thank you to Shelley and her committee for all of your work on hospitality and decorations.
Thank you to Christy and her committee for all of their work on the marketplace.
Thank you to Terry and all of the retirees for lending us your experience, your offer of time and support, and your financial support.
And finally, thank you to our administrators and our leadership for their support in our efforts of hosting this conference.
Just like we couldn't make a bouquet from a single flower, we couldn't have planned this conference without all of you. We really came together this year to create something special.
We dedicate this bouquet to you. We appreciate all of your work and support. Thank you.
A very special thank you to Courtney and Georgina and the entire Michigan affiliate for the work that they put into planning our annual session. Thank you to Dr. Pizzagna for a wonderful and eye-opening presentation. Thank you to the representatives from AAFCS and NIFA for being here with us today. Thank you again to our 2021 liaisons and all of the planning committee members. Good luck to the candidates. And last but not least, thank you for being here with us today. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the virtual annual session.